yeah, I found a list that doesn't have like all of the mini dungeon bosses and such, and I mostly found all of like the main remembrance bosses and actual bosses you need to get to most areas. So I do have a row here for, I guess, bosses we missed. But I think, to be fair, I looked up all of these, and outside of Lich Dragon Fortisax, the rest of them, you just have to like go out of your way and find secret areas to beat them, and they didn't really seem all that important. So like I feel like I beat basically everything that was important in this game. But yeah, so forewarning, I might have some bad opinions. We shall see. I don't really know, but we'll see when we get there. I might be made fun of just a little bit today. But yeah, so I guess we could start with Margott. Margott's a little weird. I'm gonna put Margott in just the first A tier though, because I think as a introduction to Elden Ring, as like the first main boss that you actually fight, he's a good sense of telling you how difficult this game's gonna be in comparison to Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. Personally, that's how I felt, because he's a lot more complicated than any other starting bosses in those games. Like I think it's Iodex Gundyr in DS3 was difficult but still manageable, but I think Margott is a lot more complicated of a boss compared to Iodex Gundyr. So ultimately, like, he's a good fight, but just really difficult, and also kind of teaches you, probably if this is your first game, should brute force it and go out into the world and explore, because obviously this is what this game wants you to do. But outside of that, yeah, I think he's just a really well designed boss, really fun. Also kind of gets you introduced to how many bosses are going to have first and second phases in this game in particular. So yeah, but yeah, so followed up by Godric. It's a little weird. I feel like Godric is a similar example where, again, showing you how difficult the game can be. I think he's difficult, but he suffers a little bit from the spectacle issue I feel like FromSoft has. But yeah, Godric, I think I'm gonna put him in B tier, because that second phase and even elements of the first phase, like I said, issue with FromSoft and their spectacle that they want to achieve. I think there's a couple of bosses in this game that do reach the kind of spectacle they're aiming for and are still fun to fight. Godric's a little annoying, at least he was for me, and I didn't have a great time with him. Obviously, I had to. That was like the first time I summoned, which sadly became a repeated mistake throughout the rest of the game. Sadly. So then I'm gonna go to Red Wolf of Radagon. Honestly, I know some people have an issue with this fight. I had more fun than Godric here, and I didn't summon or anything like that. I felt like it wasn't really cheesy either, because I barely used Bloodhound's Fang's Ash of War. But so Red Wolf of Radagon, yeah, I'm gonna put it in B as well, because it's not anything like fantastic or whatever. It feels like a kind of smaller Sif fight with a couple of more magical elements. It was still fun, but it for me at least, with the experience I've made over the last like 2 months or whatever, it was kind of like turn your brain off stuff. Okay, so Renala's weird. I feel like that second phase, again, I got really lucky because I didn't have any of the really annoying summons that she could do. So I don't know how bad that could get, but I really liked the second phase. So I guess I'll keep her in A, but really the thing that drives her down, yeah, the thing that can drive her down is that first phase is really boring. So if I didn't have something that could do a lot of damage, I don't like in these games in particular when you have a boss fight that is just arbitrarily lengthened. Oh yeah, also the actual like the aura farming of the second phase and everything like that. Like it's a fun fight. Really beautiful fight. She's a cool boss because then you get access to respecking. A very good boss. But that first phase, like, if you did not have to keep doing that first phase and just do the second phase with, I don't know, something slightly changed. I don't really know what I would change about her. But yeah, I think A is fair enough. So Radon, I think he's like a good spectacle fight, and I feel like the game is pointing you to, how do I put this, summon everything in his arena, especially if you've talked to these NPCs thus far. If you don't, it's probably a lot more difficult to fight. Like I probably missed out on the epicness of him by doing that much summoning, but he, spectacle wise, I'm gonna put him in A still. He probably deserves S, but I didn't get that much out of it. Again, if I didn't summon for him, just actually attempted him, I think he probably would be S. But outside of that, he was just kind of a weird boss fight and annoying. And he's also, again, a big target, which I'm never a fan of in these games. Okay. Royal Knight Lorietta. To be completely honest, there are some of these boss fights in this game. So I know this is in the Manor, with all the hands and stuff to get to Ronnie's quest. I feel like this instance of this fight was very easy. By the time I had come back to it, because I kind of skipped the mansion for a long while, I came back and killed her very quickly. There's maybe like 1 to 2 attempts beforehand, but I don't know what's with this game and putting bosses on horses. I feel like with her being on a horse and stuff, I don't know, I'm probably just gonna put her, I don't know, like it's kind of a forgettable fight, to be completely honest. It's not like, again, it's not a horrible fight or anything, but just kind of boring, I guess. I don't know. Very forgettable. The real ancestor spirit. So I did this accidentally off stream when I was grinding, and then I continued a little bit of Ronnie's quest accidentally. I don't know. It was a fight. That's like a lot of these, outside of a select few from this game, I feel like a lot of them are kind of like, oh yeah, that's a fight. Like, I did it in 1 attempt. It wasn't very hard. Kind of forgettable, and it's one of those fights that you have to really go out of your way to just randomly find, because you had to light all of the torches for it and such, and it was just kind of like, I don't know, kind of very boring. Okay, so then we got Estelle. Estelle was something that I had seen clips of Estelle beforehand, and I had always been like, yeah, that looks like a very big boss. Looks like a spectacle boss. I don't want to go fight that. I know it's like optional, so I'm not gonna even attempt that. But Estelle was actually pretty fun, I would say. I've seen some people say Estelle's like a bad fight. I don't know. I had fun with Estelle. I feel like, again, it's another big non-humanoid that you mainly need to hit the head of. But if you're good with positioning, then it's not gonna be too hard. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like, honestly, I had a better time fighting Estelle than Renala. No, I can never tell which one is which. I think she's Renala, yeah. But yeah, so I'm gonna put her in A. Godskin Noble, on the other hand. So, Godskin Noble it's also, how do I say this? Godskin Noble suffers from an issue that I noticed with a lot of the invader type enemies, where it feels like, and you'll see this for the rest of the game past this point, a lot of these things do not give you big windows to attack. So if you're kind of at a point where you're trying to do a bleed buildup or something, and you also are a glass cannon kind of build, you're not going to have a fun time. And the fact that it's A, has projectiles, and B, will always try to get near you and hit you / attack you, it's just a little, it's very annoying. And then I also noticed with Godskin Noble, this is when the hitboxes got a little weird for me personally, because I would have weapons with, I thought, enough range to hit them, and they would not. And I clearly was kind of like through with Volcano Manor, and I didn't really want to deal with it that much. Like, design-wise, I don't think Godskin Noble is awful, but I did not have a fun time fighting Godskin Noble. And every single time Godskin Noble showed up again, I was not happy. So I'm going to put Godskin Noble in C, because I just can't stand Godskin Noble. Kind of the exact same thing with Apostle. They're just very annoying. Not fun to fight against, which also, with them reappearing so many times throughout the game, it kind of like ruins it. So I'm going to put them at the same spot at C tier. And that's going to be the end of that. After that point, Rykard. So I was clearly having issues with Rykard early on, and I had to leave and come back with an upgraded Serpent Hunter, or whatever the weapon is called, and then B, an upgraded Mimic tier. But I think once I got that shtick down, ultimately at the end of the day, it's a gimmick fight. It's a spectacle gimmick fight. I don't like either of those things. After replaying Yorm in DS3, which I would generally call a fun gimmick fight, this kind of goes for a similar thing, but with A, 2 phases, and B, you can't get near Rykard at all. And especially in that second phase, your Ash of War doesn't really have the range for him. He can get a little annoying. So I would have put him in A if he didn't have any of those issues in the second phase. But he's not like, he wasn't a horrible boss. He wasn't as annoying or forgettable as these things down here. I did have a better time fighting him than Godric though. So we'll put him in B, solid B. none of these are S tier quite yet. I think you guys are not going to like my S tiers whatsoever, so we'll see how that goes. But after that point, we have Draconic Tree Sentinel. I don't know, I think base Tree Sentinel is fun. Again, good challenge at the beginning of the game. Draconic Tree Sentinel adds in a bunch of stuff that's kind of like random bullcrap go. It is what it kind of feels like from time to time. And honestly, I don't know, like we did fight him again in Farum Azula, like a version of this specific Draconic Tree Sentinel, and it wasn't that bad. But again, a lot of these fights, like I wouldn't have complained nearly as much in DS3 or DS1 about this, but they just kind of felt really annoying in where they were placed. Clearly you had to learn them just like any other FromSoft boss, but I just got a little annoyed with them is all. Like he's not forgettable or anything like that, and I had a better time fighting him, but like compared to Godric, it's kind of just like whatever. So he'll go squarely in B. Again, not F though. Okay, you guys are gonna hate me for this. Godfrey goes in S. This is gonna sound really dumb. He felt like a classic Dark Souls boss to me, where I had a couple of attempts that were like really bad against him, but once you just learn his moveset, he feels very satisfying to fight. You, again, just good positioning will allow you to actually heal and have fun with it. He doesn't bleed or anything, so my bleed build didn't really work on him, but I still had fun with him. And I guess it is also a kind of midpoint in the game where you're like, okay, if you're not jumping, you need to start learning how to jump, or else your muscle memory will not help you for the rest of this game. Again, might be a little insane, but I don't know. That was like the first time at this point in the game where people kept asking me what my favorite boss was so far. I couldn't have it, like I didn't have an answer. And then ultimately, like after fighting him, I was just like, oh no, this is my favorite boss so far. Like it was very obvious to me, which I think is closely followed by Morgott. You guys might notice something about this list. Morgott was, again, I beat him a lot faster than I thought I was going to, which I was very surprised with. But ultimately, another thing about Morgott is if you learn the moveset, which you're kind of rewarded if you learned Margit's, you will have a good time with him. You'll have a fun time, even in that second phase, which I only got through once because the first time I got to the second phase, that's the attempt I beat him, which I was very happy about. But yeah, I don't like, there's also something else that if you're noticing about this list, there's a few exceptions to the rule, but basically if you're a dude in armor or just a man who's slightly taller than the character model and you have a weapon and you're not doing really stupid attacks and you're not positioning really dumb, then I'm probably gonna have a lot of fun with you, which yeah, definitely is not something that I've had in the past with other bosses that I've treated more fairly than others. But that's kind of with my whole opinion on like spectacle fights and such, which those two just aren't. There is two sides of that coin. Elamir of the Briar, I completely forgot about this guy. He is just that. He's just a dude with a sword, but he's completely forgettable, and I don't remember fighting him at all. I looked it up and I know where he is, and I did fight him, but he's just kind of like a super nothing burger kind of boss. Same thing with Commander Nile. Like I don't remember anything about these two boss fights. I know I fought them. I didn't have fun fighting them, and it was just kind of like me going through that part of the game, and I was just kind of like, like I don't know. But yeah, outside of that, like these two guys are literally just dudes in armor with weapons, and I did not have a good fight or a good time with either of them. Which brings me to another F tier, the pinnacle of spectacle boss fights in a FromSoft game, Fire Giant. Fire Giant is it's bad because it's a extremely large target that moves all over the place, has really weird hitboxes on where you're actually supposed to hit him, and has ranged attacks also. So you are supposed to get up close and near to him, attack him, try to catch up to him when he jumps across the arena, and then he's going to be doing something that can snipe you from across the arena as you're trying to get to him. And again, you can only hit him in certain spots. It's just not a fun fight. I don't know what they were thinking. Let's give it a ginormous health bar also, which I know that makes sense because he's literally a giant, but at the same time, is it fun? I would not say so. Yeah, like I was just happy at that point in the game that I was finally done with garbage. But then yeah, then we were followed up. So I did do Malenia after that point instead of Farum Azula. So yeah, we could go to Loretta and then Malenia. So Loretta, Knight of the Halig Tree, really literally just a royal knight Loretta reprisal. It's nothing special. I don't know, man. It's really nothing special, as I just said. It's an arena. It's a square box. There's nothing really interesting about it. And it's another person on a horse who either A, tries to run away from you, or charges at you, and it's just not fun. I cannot say the same about Malenia, though. Malenia, up till that point, yes. I had way more fun with Malenia than Radon. I got a lot of attempts with Malenia without Mimic Tier or anything like that, but I wasn't able to like fully get Malenia down until I brought in Mimic Tier, which again was sadly something about the entire run that I feel a little bad about. And one day we'll come back to it and try to do a like true Elden Ring run. We'll see. I don't really know. But Malenia, the hype was there. She's very difficult, but I think she's a fun fight is the main thing. Like my thing with FromSoft games, I'm never going to complain about a well-designed fight after the fact if it was fun. So, like my opinion on Sister Freed in DS3, when I wasn't able to beat Sister Freed for like 3 streams in a row where we were like really trying, I got extremely angry. I thought like, oh, all 3 phases are really dumb. The second phase is really stupid, which I still believe the second phase is like the worst part about her whole boss fight. But ultimately, I think Sister Freed overall is a really fun boss fight because her first phase, very cool, the whole following her around. It's a callback to DS1 as well with the invisibility and the footsteps and positioning and stuff like that. So very good. And then her third phase, although it's not welcomed because you're doing the first and second phase before it and you're probably drained of resources, you know, like after you get to it enough, you're just like, oh, this is actually fun though. At least I'm having a good time here. And that's how kind of Malenia felt with both phases. This is extremely hard, but I'm having fun. Just kind of all that matters. Godskin Duo. So okay, basically, let's package the bottom of C tier and put it into one fight where they're gonna keep on respawning until you like whittle down that health bar. And if you don't have sleep pots or mimic tier or something to summon with, screw you, I guess. Like, no, such a poorly, is it worse than Giant though? No, it's not worse. I had a way worse time with Fire Giant. It's such a, I don't know, like such a bad idea. Like I felt like this was a DS2 level moment of like F you to the player. It's so dumb. Yeah, well, that's all I have to say about Godskin Duo. Outside of that, nothing really special. Dragon Lord Placidusax. So I know this is another boss, which is just completely secret. You don't ever have to go to, and you kind of have to go out of your way to find them. But like, you know, all of these other Who bosses, which I just completely ignore. I think this was a very fun fight. Of course, I only did it in one attempt, which seemed like that shouldn't be what happened, but it is what happened. I had a fun fight, or fun time with it. I'm gonna honestly say I had a better time with that than Renala. I don't know about it versus Estelle, because it does, like, kind of reminded me of Nameless King to a certain extent, or at least that first phase of Nameless King, which is a little annoying because if you're not going for the head, and the head's really hard to get, especially with the way the arena is set up, you're gonna have a bad time. But outside of that, it's like really fun. The spectacle is good. Music's great. Yeah, just really good fight. Then we have the main event from Farum Azula, Malekith. He's S tier, but I'm gonna put him up more above Morgott. Because he's ultimately just a dude with a sword. He has a lot of other things going on that you need to pay attention to. The amount of times I've fought him, because I've fought him twice now with my New Game Plus run, he was harder there, but he was still extremely fun, and I didn't summon or anything like that. He's just a classic FromSoft boss that's like easy to learn, but you're gonna have to do like quite a few tries to learn. He doesn't feel super unfair, at least to me. There's a couple of things where he kept resetting back onto one of the pillars and jumping up, which could be a little annoying with the AI, but ultimately I don't think he's like that bad of a boss. I know a lot of people have issues with him difficulty-wise, but I didn't think he was like too bad. I probably would be saying something different if this was like my first FromSoft game. I probably would hate him, but ultimately not that bad. Now we're at Moog. Interesting. Moog, I'm a little weirded out by because he was surprisingly super easy for me. I know people have a lot of issues with him, but he felt like a DS3 boss, but like an easy DS3 boss, or like even an easy DS2 boss. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about him other than he's fun. I had more fun with him than Radon and all of these things. Yeah. I don't know. I was like expecting a much bigger and badder boss, but then we got there and it was kind of like a nothing burger, at least difficulty wise. Okay, so Godfrey, first Elden Lord, which is also Hora Liu. I feel like, well, he is just an iteration of Godfrey, but he also has the Hora Liu aspect to it. He overall though, that first phase is just Godfrey again, which is again, I like it, so I'm not going to complain about it. Second phase is really good too, that he switches up. You kind of have to get in a different mindset. And all of the grappling and stuff like that that he's doing is very different compared to a lot of other bosses that we fought in the past. But yeah, I think ultimately, very good boss. Doesn't touch Malenia though. Okay, so Sir Gideon. I don't really know if anybody has an opinion on this guy, but he's I guess he's just kind of forgettable, but he's not super offensive or anything. Okay, I guess I'll put him above Loretta. Like, I didn't have a lot of fun with him, but he also, like I said, I wasn't super angry by that boss fight whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I felt about a lot of the boss fights, as I said, in this game. Radagon of the Gold Order. Radagon, Marika, whatever you are, I don't really know. He was a good note to end on. I feel like if he was the final boss, which he's a part of the final boss, he probably would be an S tier, but because he's attached to the next boss, I'm gonna put him at a below Morgott. Yeah, because he's really cool, obviously connected to the lore of the entire game. You're kind of always hearing about both Marika and Radagon. I think he's got a good move set, fun to play against. But then you are connected to Elden Beast, which is, I don't know, man. It is the most spectacle of spectacle fights. That is where I've stopped on my New Game Plus playthrough so far, is Elden Beast, because I'm just kind of like, okay, I understand that nothing procs on you because of what you are, but stop running away from me. Stop like just having multiple moments where I have to sit there for a minute or 2 minutes where I can't hit you and I'm just running after you. I don't know, man. It's so boring. So you're gonna go to bottom of B because you're not like, no, that's not fair. You're going to C. I think you're getting under Regal Ancestor Spirit. You'll be top of C. I think the actual fight though and the mechanics is kind of like, it's really not that great of a fight. Okay, so we are done with the base game. This is the awful tier list I have for the base game. If any of you have opinions on that, you can flame me now. I don't know, but I think this is like fair enough. Again, I'm pretty sure literally everybody up here is just a dude with a sword. So can't really complain about that on my end. That's just what I like. That's what I feel like FromSoft is best at. Might have a different opinion when I finally play Bloodborne. We'll see. But yeah. All right, so we'll start in the DLC now. Divine Beast, Dancing Lion. I'm honestly, this is gonna be weird. I think it's a good introduction to the DLC. I think it's a good boss. Let's put it just like that. He can be a little annoying. There are certain attacks that are kind of like, what is going on? I don't really know. There's not much to complain about though. You kind of just have to get with the program of what the DLC is and level up, and then he'll become easier, more fun, slightly. But you know, it's not that bad. But yeah, overall, I think middle of A tier is pretty fine. Rolana, I'm a little surprised with, because I was expecting Rolana to be more fun for me personally, and it wasn't as fun as of a fight as I thought it was going to be. Rolana doesn't try to make her way towards you if you leave and try to heal up, but she has so many attacks that are ranged and melee that it just gets a little annoying. And she even has the stupid melee attack that is ranged and is all encompassing of the entire arena, and that's just a little annoying. But I would say ultimately B tier, because I had more fun with Rolana than these three, but I think Red Wolf of Radagon is still pretty fun boss fight for me personally, compared to Rolana. Obviously it's not nearly as hard, but that kind of plays into it. Commander Gaius. I'm straight up just gonna put you in F tier because you're just annoying. Top of F tier though, because you're slightly well designed, but if you had reasonable hitboxes, then I would not be putting you there. Again, I had heard multiple times over the years, like the last 2 years, that this is one of the most annoying bosses in this game. I can see why. He just has too many weird attacks that are extremely hard to dodge out of because of their hitboxes, and then there's multiple points where you can't even hit him because of the weird hitboxes. Very weird fight. I was not having fun with him. Kind of a similar scenario with the next one. Golden Hippopotamus. It's a fight, I guess. I don't know why there's randomly a hippopotamus at the beginning of a castle slash fort, I feel like bottom of C, because Godskin, both Apostle and Noble, I guess there's like certain elements that are okay slash not that bad, but Golden Hippopotamus is just kind of like, please leave me alone. I don't want to deal with this. So you know, it was just an annoying boss fight, and I was getting really tired of the game at this point. But then that brings us to Mesmer, which I think Mesmer is a lot more fair. It's not going to go into S tier, which I feel like he kind of deserves, but ultimately, like, he was way more difficult than Renala. But did I have a better time fighting him than Renala? I'll say yes. It is one of the fastest bosses I've ever fought. He is just a little too hard to read though sometimes, and you have to break your muscle memory because a lot of his attacks are delayed slash you just gotta know, kinda, and it's a little too hard to read him for me personally. I feel like that's a big issue with this game in general, is so many people have gotten used to all the rest of the games they've made that they're kind of like, okay, let's completely just mess up the attack timing for a lot of these bosses so we completely ruin their muscle memory. I feel like that's just cheap. It's not really fair. Meteor, Meter, Mother of Fingers. We literally did this like 2 days ago, and I don't remember. I remember it being annoying, as most of the boss fights in the DLC. We'll put it at bottom of B. Like that, this was the first boss I beat with all the annoying ones that were occurring, at least for me. So then finally getting done with it got me to, you know, defeat Gaius and a couple of other things. But it's just kind of like a gross fight also, from what I remember. So not a big fan. This is gonna sound bad. I just really liked Ramina's fight. It really reminded me of a lot of the good elements of DS1 and DS3. Like, of course, it's technically a spectacle boss fight because she's a lot bigger than you. But I feel like her attacks are very easy to read and fun to learn. And everything she's doing in her second phase, while it seems very complicated, it's not nearly as bad as you would think. And I didn't cheese her or anything with Mimic tier, so ultimately I feel like we ended up having a really good time learning her boss after how many attempts I did, and you know, just after a little bit of leveling up and changing up my playstyle, we ended up beating her, but I felt really good at the end of it. I can't say the same about Putrescent Knight. Putrescent Knight has a lot of the issues that Commander Gaius has, and again, it's kind of like a throw random stuff at the wall kind of boss fight. It's not as bad as Gaius, but when I heard about it and I was like, oh, there's something I'm missing, I have to go do this before I beat Radahn, I didn't realize it was going to be this annoying of a fight. It was just kind of really bad. I was very happy to be over with it. I don't know, I'm going to put it under Gaius. It was that, like, I was just not having fun with it at all. Jory the Elder, I think that was the guy in that swamp area that kept summoning thing. I'm going to put you at F just for the principle of you basically being a weird DS2 boss fight. Not good, very bad. No fun to be found here. A lot of gank and teleporting and a bunch of other stuff after a really annoying dungeon as well. Yeah, that was just a bad fight. Okay. Midra, Lord of the Frenzied Flame. I feel like I just have to put him in S just because of everything with that area was really cool. And his boss fight was really good, but it was really difficult. And I felt like unfairly so at times. I had a better time with him than Mesmer, that's for sure. Did I have a better time with him? I feel like I had a better time than Radagon with him. Like, it was fun factor wise. Did I have more fun than him than Morgott? I did, honestly. I think he'll go there at A. Scatter Tree Avatar, bad gimmick fight. Or not gimmick fight, spectacle fight. But bad in what sense? After Meteor, Mother of Fingers. Okay, we got these final two guys. Veil the Dread. I think just from my experience with the fight, obviously Egon, is that his name? I called him in and Mimic Tier for him. When I had a lot of issues with Medir in DS3, I basically swore off dragon fights. I was basically saying we're not ever gonna do another dragon fight ever again. But honestly, a lot of people were saying just wait for Bale, pursue Bale, and a lot of people are hyping up Bale. I got very confused as to why until we actually fought Bale for the first time. I understand now. I think Bale is bar none the best dragon fight, best spectacle fight that FromSoft has ever done. One thing I hope they learn from this though is do not try to replicate Bale with another spectacle fight, because FromSoft, you probably will fail. He is obviously an S tier, and honestly, the best time I had fighting a boss in this entire game. I'm gonna say Bale is my favorite. That might change in a matter of days or weeks or months when I play this game more, but I think Bale was probably the most fun I had fighting a boss in this entire game. Very, very, very cool boss. Which brings me to Radon. PCR is a little weird because I had to completely change up my playstyle for him. I wouldn't describe it as cheesing, but what we ended up having to do felt a little bad because this felt like the best playstyle for him. Kind of sucked. But ultimately, I think Radon, Consort of Mikola, when you actually learn all of his fights, and if you fight him a different way than I did, he still deserves S tier. No, yes, and he's better than Malekith, better than Godfrey. Did I have a better time with him than Romana though? No, I can't say that I did. But yeah, I feel like this is our tier list for Elden. I didn't think going in this was what it was going to be like. I think there is a little bit of a how do I put this? Of a bias with certain types of boss fights on here. But yeah, outside of that, this is where I've come to my conclusions on things. Again, it's probably going to be different in the future when I replay this game, however many times I'm going to do that. But yeah, this is the tier list.